1986, there was only 5 women in the state of Texas in athletic administration. In the beginning, people weren't very receptive with me being a female. We did not have any girls' sports except tennis and swimming. I've just had so much fun, if you want to say it's a labor of love, because I went back to my hometown and got to do this.
Hey everybody, my name is Pat Cohan, and for this THSADA Director's Cut, we're featuring Brenda Marshall, a trailblazer whose 39-year career in Corpus Christi ISD has earned her a place in the 2025 THSADA Hall of Honor. We're going to talk about how Brenda broke down barriers in the 1980s, mentored the next generation of athletic leaders, and continues to lead with authenticity, preparation, and heart. A special thanks goes out to GigaTera Lighting, engineers of lightweight, non-spill LED lighting trusted by sports facilities across the country. Now, let's dive into this episode of the THSADA Director's Cut featuring Brenda Marshall. Brenda Marshall, Corpus Christi ISD, thanks for joining us here on the THSADA Director's Cut, and congratulations on being inducted into the 2025 Hall of Honor.
Well, thank you so much. It was indeed an honor when they said something at our board of directors meeting, so it was neat.
What's the recipe for that? And I feel like everybody's different, but what was your recipe maybe that led to this achievement?
Oh gosh, I'm just one of those people that just try to work hard. You know, they probably don't know I might be at an event, but I'm always, behind the scenes. So, I've been in athletics for 39 years, and of course 7 years prior to that I was coaching. I've just had so much fun, if you want to say it's a labor of love, because I went back to my hometown and got to do this.
And for somebody, what year did you get into athletic administration? Not to date you. Not to date you.
5 women in the state of Texas in athletic administration. They've all retired. I'm one of the original from 1986.
And I'm going to really date you here. I was born in 87. So at that time, take me there, 1986, and you're the athletic administrator that gets hired.
Third down, called athletic specialist.
You were the athletic specialist?
Specialist is the third down, or like an assistant.
Okay. And how did that happen? As we said, 5 people in the whole state had that role.
I happened to come home one weekend. At that time, Chipper Zamora was the athletic director, and I stopped by one day to see him and just say, "Hey, sir, here's my name. If you ever have a position in athletic administration, let me know." So come to find out, he was asking for 2 full-time assistant positions, and he considered me in there that day as an interview, which I didn't know that till later, because I had like 6 or 7 other guys apply. I was the only female, and so he was fortunate enough, to say, "Hey, this is who I want," and I can never, thank him enough.
So it just came from you taking a little initiative and putting yourself out there.
Yeah, from that sense, come to find out, he knew one of the people that I used to play summer ball with, so he did some checking of who am I, and so it come to find out we had a mutual friend, and like I say, it was a new position for him because he only had part-timers helping him, and so, wow. I guess because it is in my hometown, then I always say my job's a labor of love.
And then as you grew through that, what were some of the hurdles that you, whether it was a mental block or just a resource block, what were some of the big points of inflection in your career that after you overcame this or looked at this a different way or achieved this resource, things really took off in that space?
Well, I guess in the beginning, people weren't very receptive with me being a female. And I went to the first local AD meeting, and they all thought I was the secretary for the 2 AD and assistant AD that happened to be there. So they were very quick to say, "No, she's not our secretary. She's one of our assistants." Sticking around in Corpus Christi, it happened to be, like say, I went to high school there. When I was in high school in 73, we did not have any girls' sports except tennis and swimming. So that was I laughingly, and I've told people, when I was going to go off to college to UT Arlington, where my brother actually was there before that year playing football, I said, I love you, but I'll never come home to Corpus unless I can get a job in athletic administration. So I went off to UT Arlington. My brother and I, he pitched, played football. I was on one of the original softball teams there, coached by Jody Conrad, actually. So not many people know that she was our softball and basketball coach. Her and another lady, Carla Lowry, kind of coached everything.
And you got to see firsthand how to actually build programs.
I did. After I left UT Arlington, I followed in the same footsteps of my brother, and we both went to Baylor 1 year apart as a graduate teaching assistant. And then that summer, which would have been 79, got a call, hey, there's going to be a job opening, for new softball to start a program at West Texas State. And so I got to get interviewed, and come to find out the gentleman that was the athletic director out there in WT happened to know that same person that is one of our summer league sponsors. And he also called a coach at Ray High School where we went to high school, and he had coached my brother. And so he just said, hey, I'm going to offer you the job, and I'll give you $500 more. So it was $11,500 for my first job.
Wow, that's not a signing bonus. That is a salary. $11,500.
Plus, I was a full-time teacher at the college, and in those days.
Wow, but you got to see how to build things.
Yes.
I think that's the thing that maybe we're not seeing as often now, or just seeing in a different scope, because when no resources are provided, you got to figure out. You learn a lot. And
that's where I guess, I've always tried to be creative, and even the new assistants that we have, you got to look at everything. Don't just stand there at the game, football, baseball, whatever it might be. Walk around facilities, check on things, if anything last minute that might happen. So I've always been our family detail oriented.
How do you teach that though? Like, you got the experience of building it from scratch, and you learn a lot there. How do you teach the skills that you attain through building it from scratch when to somebody that 90% of it's already done?
That would be similar to what I did 2 years ago when I got new assistant athletic directors. They had never been anybody in administration. They'd only been head coaches of a particular sport. So it's where you shadow people. You sit in and tell them in my case, I would tell people, hey, here's all the things you got to look for, good, bad, indifferent, when we're having this event. And so I guess, I'm always somebody that's looking at every detail, not just the product itself right there on the court or the field.
And how do you hope that your mentees and the people that you're building, how do you hope that they remember your legacy as a leader and somebody that's impacted their career? And maybe sitting here when they're in the Hall of Honor, talking about when Brenda Marshall was at Corpus Christi and everything I learned from her.
Well, you try to be a very good role model. I've never believed in the word I. It's always been we. There's probably a lot of things I do that nobody will ever know about, and trying to help someone. Just like with my 3 new assistants right now, I try to, go with them. We talk all the time. You've got to pass this on to the next generation. Just like we're working with Texas high school coach, we asked them if they would let us have a seat at the table, which, Libby Pacheco created. But I said, can we do it different in Corpus? Okay, we're called the Coastal Bend, meaning there's 15, 20 schools. Yeah. So instead of CCISD just having a seat at the table, it's all the Coastal Bend women that are in athletic administration or a head coach aspire to be that. And so we've been doing that monthly with, the direction from Libby of how they do the seat at the table.
That's excellent.
So it's women only, yeah.
But it's a nice branding piece of inclusion, right? And I think that's a big thing that the Athletic Directors Association is trying to do as well, and having their regional meetings and having their area jam sessions and really trying to show that, hey, this is, it might be hosted by District A, but this is for all and a great opportunity to get farther down the administrative path.
And that's where, like, we have a gentleman in our office now. He's an athletic trainer. He wants to someday be an assistant athletic director. I said, then my door's open. Come ask me any questions, but then follow me. Follow me to a game. Follow me. Go see what I do on the backside. When I first began and I had to work a football game that night, people made comments that, well, why would a woman be on the field? I don't belong there. or I went to Texas High School Coaches School, and in those days, they didn't really have any women, and that was where our ADs had our banquet every year, Hall of Honor banquet. And I remember walking in front of a bunch of young male coaches, and they said, why is she here? She shouldn't be here. So I guess if I can prevent, because of my longevity, of that happening to somebody else, then that's cool.
That's a massive impact. When you look at some of the things, you talked about a lot of the things that your team has done no one ever sees. What's one that you're super proud of? Like the one that you might want to say, hey, if I were to tell you my proudest moment and proudest accomplishment in my career, what's a tangible one? Don't give me the philosophical one of like, oh, yeah, we created this great. No, I want a tangible piece where it's like, wow.
Oh, gosh, I'm trying to think. Just when maybe we were putting on a tournament and things go wrong and you come up with a solution. I'm trying to think of something specifically.
That happens every day, though, with athletic directors.
I guess my assistants laugh at me sometimes of, I try to overthink everything just to cover all bases.
Is that effective? Like, would you say a young AD should almost lean into that more than hope that everything goes well?
You don't have to be, in the time period that I was growing up, I also had to defend myself, and that probably worked twice as hard because women were having to prove themselves in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. Okay, so now we're 2024, 25. You can see there's a lot of women now that are athletic directors, that they're in different roles. And so my hope is that everything that possibly happened to me then, that should not even be happening now.
There's a great line by the actress that's in White Christmas with Bing Crosby, and she says, the men did a great job dancing, but I had to learn all the steps backwards and in heels. And it sounds like that was a lot of what your athletic administrative career was like in the early days, learning all the things you should do, but then also learning how to do them in a non-supportive environment.
And sometimes, like say, I'm growing up in South Texas, so I come back to South Texas, one of the few, say, Anglo people that might be in this administrative type. And so when I was meeting with coaches, just like I happened to be a baseball coach, we were talking about equipment because I was in charge of equipment for the district. I had to do my homework and make sure I knew what I would be talking to him on because, one, I had to try to, win him over that I know what I'm talking about. So you hope that all those things don't happen to any of the women now, or even if it was a male that was just starting out in whatever school. People have to believe in what you're doing, and so I guess that's my, sometimes people may say, oh, well, you're a little too straightforward, too brash or whatever. But, you want to make your district the best you can.
Well, and that's your authentic self is what I'm hearing from that. And I think people want to deal with the real person because there's a saying that everybody's got an angle. And the more you can just be upfront with what you're after in terms of having a great program, making sure this is the best it possibly could be, people understand that that's the angle. That's what they're trying to get at, and there's nothing else behind that. And you can be upfront about it, and they know the standard, and they'll strive to help achieve that.
Yeah, you don't have to, like say, hopefully the ladies nowadays, they're not having to go out there and have to prove themselves of what they know or don't know or whatever angle. The good thing for me, I went back to Corpus Christi, my hometown. So then a lot of people in the town knew me, and so, or they were still there. And so that was where I guess people were receptive in the sense that it was somebody that was homegrown. But you still had to, when you go to places and you meet other people, you have to you don't want to be, say, too pushy, which, okay, sometimes maybe I am, but I want to fight for our programs. And so I know when I go downtown to a meeting and if I'm having to defend something, I'm going to have all the background. I'm going to say, here's plan A, plan B. And so you're working with people that may not have an athletic background, but you're there to teach them what they need to know about athletics. And, you try to leave everything in good shape. We've got new facilities in Corpus Christi, and thank goodness we have a great superintendent that loves athletics. And so it's our job to make sure that everything is beautiful, it stays in working order, things like that.
You said defend in there, and it made me think, when do you defend your opinion or develop to understand somebody else's opinion?
Well,
Because I want to give context to this.
Okay.
Pushing for something that you think is best for your school and your kids is excellent. But there's sometimes where maybe there's a development opportunity for yourself and it's just a changing of your lens. But where's the line? Like, how do you decide, okay, I need to keep pushing, I need to keep defending what I think is right, and I need to look at this some other way. They might have some validity there, and how do I develop personally to understand that?
Well, if you always keep in mind, what we do is for the kids and coaches, then you hope that you're still making right decisions. There may be some times that we can't convince admin from a downtown office of this is why we need it, but you keep bringing it up, and some things that I'm bringing up now to our superintendent, it's the same similar things that we brought up maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but to us it's important. It's we want to make, in our case, we want to make CCISD better. So people want to come, they want to move and have their families in CCISD.
How important now more than ever? I mean, as a marketing person, I'm hearing all these great things that you do in the marketing space, meaning changing the name of your seat at the table to a coastal, not just Corpus Christi ISD, branding yourself as homegrown. Like, that's little tactics that really help people understand and maybe feel it's just the rebranding, repositioning of yourself and your programs and the initiatives that you're about. Is that just come natural, or do you work on that to say, hey, I got an idea, how do we make this most appealing to the audience we're trying to get in front of?
I guess a little of both. Like I say, I have an older brother. My mom was a nurse there in the town. My father was a policeman. So I learned from them that, one, you got to take care of business, but then you also have to hear their sides. You also have to know, say, the background. My father, in dealing with people or kids or whoever might be in trouble, you have to come up with a plan A, B, and C. And so, when we're going and asking somebody downtown, hey, can we do this and this? I want to show them why. Why is it good for our kids and students? And it may take a couple of years to convince them. It happens. You would love to say you get everything on the first try, but you don't. And so you keep plugging away, and you maybe sometimes find a different angle to make it presentable, to make it, why do we want this? And so I guess that's what I try to do, is everything that we do, come up with a good reason for it. And to, if we always keep in mind it's for the kids and the coaches, you can't go wrong.
Looking ahead and seeing where we're at the current state of high school athletics in Texas, what do you hope to happen here in the next 5 years that will keep that at the forefront?
You hope that each district, of course, right now the legislature's going on, and you worry about some of these bills that they might pass with whether it be an NIL or a one-time transfer portal, things like that. I guess sometimes the wrong people or the people with the wrong agendas might be the decision makers, and then that's what they have to understand, that it's hurting the kids or coaches, or it's hurting somebody's community. And say in 5 years of CCISD, make sure we streamline whatever it is that we might need to change. Here a few years ago, in Corpus Christi ISD is a multi-school district. We have 6 high schools, and we wanted to branch out with our track programs, do a little different. Well, having a multi-school district, we had 10 or 11 middle schools at every track meet. But this year, what we're trying to do is that, 3 or 4 teams go to next door, Gregory Portland, they go to West Oso, schools that are around us that are not in our ISD. And then we still have our tournaments, but we're letting them branch out to see, so that they just don't have a concept of the abilities or what we're doing at CCISD. So we've gone to some other people's basketball tournaments, volleyball tournaments and things. And so, you have to learn from everybody. and be a sponge. It's not always going to be your way or, whatever you think. You got to listen to everybody around you. And then at sometimes you do have to make a decision, yes or no. And so you hope that people will back you. But if you keep it honest or keep it thinking of kids and coaches, you really can't go wrong.
And here at the show, at the Spring Sponsor Showcase, trying to bring it back home to the current where we're at now, what's something you've taken away from this show that you hope to provide value at your district?
Well, with the topics, I was listening to the folks talk about the budget, trying to see if there's a different angle of something that we could do better in Corpus Christi. Listening to the gentleman talk about that when somebody might be in trouble, UIL investigations. And so we've been very pleased with the people that have been speaking today because, one, the 3 assistants I have, they're here, and they can hear it besides just from me. How sometimes you hear something the same.
Well said. Yeah, that's a great,
okay, they're only getting my opinion.
Yeah.
But then the good thing is coming here, either there's new opinions that we find in which, hey, every day we're going to learn something new, or it reinforces what we've been trying to do, and they see, oh, somebody else is doing it too. But
these events, I always think of these events as like orange concentrate. Remember an orange juice came from the little concentrate thing? And like these events are your opportunity to get as close as possible to that juice, the passion for athletic administration, the juice that all of us kind of have pumping through our veins. And then you go off and bring it to your local communities. And by bringing others and bringing people that may never have been to a show before and getting them to a little sip of what's going on in this space, that helps multiply your message to everybody else in that school district. So I love that idea of bringing more than just you and as a representative of your school district, but more people to basically help carry the load of delivering the messaging to the people in your school district.
With us being in South Texas, probably some things that you learn from people up in the north or the Dallas area, the Houston area, sometimes, especially our coaches, they don't hear from those people or they don't know how the other people live and everything's working fine for them. So that's where we want to bring in ideas. We have a couple of assistant coaches that came here today. They're interested in the Quad A.
Yes.
Now we're trying to talk to people within our district and just say, hey folks, if you don't want to just be a coach all your life, here's some ways that you can get better. Like an example would be one of our athletic trainers has now, hey, I would like to be an assistant AD someday. Okay, so we made sure he's coming here with us this weekend, and like I say, you have to shadow people and go follow and see what they're doing, because there's some things you can't even explain on paper, and that you just have to be there, and that's where I laugh, I guess, inside. Helping our 3 new assistants is I always ask them, did you learn anything today? And he goes, yeah, I learned this, and this, and that's what we're here for. Somebody like me that's been doing this for 46 years and the last 39 in Corpus, that you hope you're teaching somebody and you hope that they're going to learn from you and learn from others.
Well, you've done a phenomenal job at your post, and you've done a phenomenal job growing your people, and thank you so much for spending the time with us, for serving the association, and congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Honor, a big deal here in the Texas high school space, and you've definitely achieved that.
It is a big deal, and I sincerely appreciate you asking me to come sit and talk with you. But, this is, I don't normally say a whole lot, but, yes, this is a very big deal being in the AD's Hall of Honor. That is a big deal.
It is a tribute, and when I first started working with Texas athletic directors, they made it seem like it was the Grammys. They made it seem like it was the biggest thing you can get in this in Texas high school, and it is. And congratulations!
I appreciate that. It definitely is. And, this organization has grown so much. Thank goodness with Rusty Dowling and Bob DeYoung and everybody that's helping him. This has grown into people realizing, there's other ways to help kids than just be a coach, because we're going to touch their lives every day too. They just may not see us up front.
Well, Brenda Marshall, we see it and we appreciate you, and congratulations again on that induction.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.